unfortunately, you won't see anything until we get to that action item, so. And even then, you're gonna have to deal with me, just be my shine.
And she pictures very live.
All right.
I get the phone call from my dad that said,
It is not
come on, so it's one wall.
Did you guys?
And she got a call,
We'll
can't
have
wait to have
tonight,
it.
don't leave.
So
We'll get
I
it.
have one wall. I'm gonna cut it right now. Now I'm putting that thing over there. So you're gonna try it. I don't know.
Yeah, so you're just gonna try.
Thank you.
So I quick.
I'll check on for you.
Made a little oil boat, put butter in there, and that's it. Put her on the grill and serve it to her. Now she wants walleye. Ever since then. She's like, Dad, bring me home walleye.
Such a game changer, yeah, good fishing.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Riley joining us?
As far as I know, I'll let him sign his own file.
We won't wait for a moment.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. First item on the agenda was the additions to and/or approval of the agenda.
I'd like to delete new business item C, resolution amending fee and fine schedule.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, agenda approved as amended. Next is visitors to be heard. Members of the public may speak under the visitors to be heard on any topic not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the council shall use the podium. Please raise your hand if you're recognized, go to the podium and state your full name and address. Remarks shall limit to 2 minutes. All right. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve. There's just one correction on the minutes. Minutes in the agenda, in the packet, state January 25 on them, and just missed that to February 8.
I scribbled on here, so I don't forget.
Second.
Motion and second, we'll do roll call. Wolf?
Aye.
Welch?
Aye.
Doherty?
Aye.
Bowers?
Aye.
Riley?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda has been approved. All right, old business. Item A, ordinance 619, rural service district.
Thank you, Mayor. No updates from the last time this ordinance was up for the first reading. Again, this is just adding in areas that are in this rural service district so that we have the correct documentation for the county. Recommend a motion to approve second reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance 619, second reading has been approved. Lincoln County dispatch agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. This is simply an update, information item. City Attorney and I have submitted our edit request to the county on that dispatch agreement. To this day, we haven't heard back yet. It's only been over there for about a week, so I expect it to take a little bit of time for that review to happen. So it's currently with them, and we're waiting to hear back.
You don't need action on it tonight,
No,
though?
no action needed. Okay.
Is it premature to discuss what the city attorney's take was on this?
No, not at all. Let me pull up the agreement, see if I can see his edits on here. One moment. edits that I had on there. Brett had one question. He caught one area that I did not caught where I mentioned E911, so that was on that first page. And I'm not seeing his question on the other. Oh, here we go. So, section H under general provisions, Brett wanted to delete both items 1 and 200 there, mostly because it could change our coverage with the insurance pool. We see that quite a bit with hold harmless indemnity agreements or indemnity provisions, that some people would interpret that language to be in conflict with our insurance policy. So, and then he simply clarified under item I that the E901 system is outside the scope of the agreement. He had a comment on the termination without agreement or the grievance procedure. He thinks we're fine without one, but he doesn't see a problem with there being one in there. So I think that was it.
We'll have a chance to discuss this again when it presents itself, so I'll refrain from comment at this point. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right, on to vacation of Industrial Street, Industrial Avenue.
Thank you, Mayor. This one is coming to us from a few months ago. Back in November, the City Council considered this item vacating Lennox and Industrial Park, 2 streets, Industrial Avenue and Industrial Street. There was some discussion as to whether vacating those streets would landlock a few parcels at that meeting. That's been resolved with a replat of the adjoining properties. And additional discussion was had at that meeting with regard to whether the right of way should be sold to Sioux Steel instead of simply vacated. I've talked to the city engineer about this and a few others, and agree that doing so would be quite unusual and set a precedent for future vacations. One topic that's come up since then is that I remind folks that when this property changes hands, it does become taxable property as well. So there will be tax revenue, property tax revenue generated by the vacation.
To what extent will they maintain as it states they're committed to future maintenance?
Well, they would have to maintain it to their standards. We don't have, we don't have a standard for the maintenance of private streets in our ordinance that I know of. Property maintenance code would apply. So I would certainly look to that to see if there's any language in the International Property Maintenance Code as to whether they need to maintain it to a certain, maintaining drivable surfaces to a certain extent. You're talking driveways, parking areas, those kinds of things.
What kind of number are we putting on this piece of street?
In terms of
Money?
value, we're not asking for anything in return.
What do we have invested in it?
I'm not a fan of
Oh gosh.
giving that away.
And the other thing is,
Look at what we got.
as far as keeping it up to code, isn't Sioux Steel also supposed to have some opaque fencing around their entire yard that still is not done?
Yeah, I think there's some covenants for the industrial park, first edition, that would apply to that.
I was under the impression it was part of their conditional use permit.
I don't know of any conditional use permits. I look back a ways, we do have some minutes that are out for binding right now, so I don't have access to them. But I do have access to the covenants. There's opaque fencing requirements in there, as well as where you can have things stored on the property.
Okay, so who enforces the covenants of that?
That says the city of Lennox.
Okay,
I would like to talk to the city attorney to get his take on that, since the city wasn't a party to the agreement.
and what kind of property tax revenue increase are we talking about if we do vacate the street?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
And what kind of value, what are they using as a value, like what we've invested in it as far as infrastructure?
No, I think what you would probably look at it per square foot. In terms of comparing it, you'd probably look at, oh gosh. You could look at adjoining property, you can look at developed property, and try to find a way to get a price off of that.
Well, what do we charge per square foot for like Sunshine
what would we charge?
Or what is the I mean, is that what they're used as for the assessment, or how's it assessed, I guess is my question.
The whole property is assessed, so I don't know if the assessor's office would, or I don't know if the county would assign a specific value to a, like, parking lot.
So it'd be whatever their value is, time, add on whatever that
Excellent.
number may be.
There's no good way to say what the county would assess it at, unless we're gonna go off of something, we could try to find a similar value on a lot, but most of those lots are either owned by the city or the school district.
Cause how many feet of street would they be getting? I mean, it's a pretty significant portion, isn't it?
Be about 1,300, 350 feet.
And how long's a block? Or
About
what-
300 feet is
That's a
standard.
quarter mile.
Okay, so when we talk like that, whenever we go to redo a road, what do we charge per foot? I mean, we have that thing that Stockwell put together.
Oh, for a special assessment,
Yeah.
120
Per foot?
per side.
Okay, so 1,300 times 120 is a pretty big number for us to just give away.
That'd be approximately $315,000.
And how old's that street?
Oh, gosh.
15, 12,
I'll tell you what, that's older than that.
older than that?
What have we invested in maintenance in the last 10 years as far as crack sealing and that kind of stuff?
Within the last 10 years, I don't think we've cracked more than that.
18, 20.
I just feel like to give away, to improve a piece of property and then to just vacate it because they ask us to is, I guess, I wouldn't be real comfortable with that.
I don't see a date on the, 97 is when, September of 97 were when the covenants were adopted.
Okay. So, I guess in order for them to have any sort of, I would like to see some sort of, could we talk to Stockwell or somebody to figure out what it would cost them to put in that road as it sits?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the lifespan of it is or how much is left, but to just give away $300,000. I mean, if they wanted like a swap off to where they would take some of maybe our roads that are curb and gutter and gravel and would be willing to pay to pave those roads for us, I could maybe get on board with that. But to just give it away, I just think is a big ask.
Okay.
Also, I would like it looked at, what we need to do to enforce the covenants that they're in violation of.
With the fencing. Or storage, I guess I should say.
Cause I mean, whenever you put together something where you're gonna maintain it, well, they haven't maintained their current property, how they say they're gonna do it. If we're gonna hold our citizens accountable to how they maintain their property and where they park, I think it's kind of unreasonable not to hold the business to the same standard.
Yeah.
Was the parking lot standards changed after they were there? Was there a revision?
So the hard surfacing requirement?
Right, like for the what they call the maneuvering areas?
I think that was after, Sioux Steel would have been there. And then in industrial areas, the ordinance does make an exception for light and heavy industrial, for certain spots on the lot. I think it's for exterior storage, for example, it's allowed. But for, say, employee parking, maybe it's not.
When you say allowed, like,
So a gravel surface would be an approved surface, for light storage allowed.
okay.
Storage yard for a contractor or a manufacturer.
So you mentioned that the city engineer said it would be quite unusual for the city to sell the property to Sioux Steel in your memorandum. guess explain that to me, why would that be unusual?
It's just unusual to see, money change hands for the vacation of a street, in most towns. I'm not aware of anywhere it has been used. Not to say that it hasn't, but I'm not aware of any, and nor was much.
And I can maybe understand an alleyway that's not really improved, like a gravel.
Well, I look at like this, the land we have along the railroad tracks up here. I mean, we auctioned that off. We made people pay for that to get the land, those lots. I don't remember how, was that 5 years ago probably?
On the north side of the tracks?
Yes.
Probably.
Maybe more than
Yeah,
that.
it might be more than that. It's been a while.
But I mean, we auctioned off that property. So to me, I just don't know how we expect those people to pay for that, because that's not even improved.
Was that a part of the tip, Nate? Do you remember?
Where at?
I'm sure it was.
For Cecile?
Or industrial avenue, I'm not sure what you have. Was that funded by a tip?
I'm not sure. Not sure.
We could probably find that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we need a motion on this item?
I think there's more research that needs to happen, so I recommend a motion to table at this
I was
point.
gonna say, I'll make a motion to table it.
Second. Mayor, before the vote, did we have for the property north of railroad tracks that was auctioned off, we know approximately what that was? Within the last 10, I think.
I mean, let's say 5 or 7 years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, it's been since I've lived in town.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's 5 or 10, yeah.
thank you.
All right, motion and a second to table it. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, tabling vacation of industrial. On to new business. Ambulance staffing proposal.
Alan, want to present this?
Hey, council. What you guys see in front of you is something that came out of our discussions about vacation time late last year. You've seen my vacation time, it keeps adding up, just for the fact is it's hard for me to get away, because somebody always has to be there and answer that call no matter when it is. So the only thing, I've been thinking about this for a while, and the only thing I can kind of come across that's going to increase or change the way this works is actually do a staffing change. And so kind of what my proposal is, creating 2 lead medic positions. So these 2 positions would be required to work, it says 48 hours per pay period per person. What we kind of figure is 2 shifts per week. You know, we're a little flexible there, we can move it around. With those 2 positions, they would also be in charge of some extra duties. It wouldn't be just taking call. We've got one we have in charge of like truck maintenance, making sure all the trucks are maintained and the building's maintained and getting supplies ordered. And another one we're looking at doing protocols and quality improvement and things like that. So those are kind of duties that be dedicated to those people. Those 2 people would then be expected to pick up the slack when I'm gone. When I take off either for training or vacation or whatever it would be. As you see in here, kind of what I was thinking is $19 an hour. The medics right now with no extra responsibilities are making $15.74. So they're making, less than that aspect. With some vacation and some retirement and a small uniform allowance. What we do, we give them some nasty stuff sometimes. I don't expect these people to be wearing their own clothes into this. They need to be wearing something that's dedicated for what we do. The next page there shows some area comps. These are comps from actually about a year and a half ago, and these are medics that are doing only taking calls. They're not doing any extra responsibilities of that aspect. And then the last slide there kind of shows the difference in cost. $19 an hour works out to be about $47,000, but we already have budgeted $39,000 of that because of the $15.74. Difference of $8,000 plus the vacation, retirement, and uniform will be a difference of about $15,500 over what we had budgeted for the year. I know, and I know what you guys' thoughts on that are.
Denise?
Well, right, I mean, we would have to, it would be one of those things where the budget is, it's not in the budget, so, we'd have to make room, or it's just something that we would, it depends on, you know, how we wanna do it.
Yeah,
We wouldn't
We would have to do it
till the end of the year, would we?
not really, no.
Because we don't know what kind of income we're gonna get.
It could be a good year, it could be a standard year, we don't know. Regardless, at the end of the year, we have to do a transfer from second penny over to ambulance, to make that fund whole, regardless, so. I'm not particularly worried about fiscal impact with a change of that much. But with that being said, it is a change to the second penny, and, you know, if we're trying to move away from other uses for that fund, that does change it. So there are options, that we could transfer from general fund as well, and make room there. Our excess, I think we had a net gain in our budget of $66,000 in the general fund for the year. So council could opt to put some of that towards it.
We also have contingency.
Yeah, there's always $50,000 of contingency in there as well. So.
Do you know, since we started sending those unpaid bills to collections, on average, what year has been, or what's been collected a year? Do you have a ballpark idea on that?
They're just starting to.
I was just gonna
I
say,
think we've gotten 4 or 5 of them back now, so they're just starting to come in.
And what's the average, I mean, how much do we have outstanding, do you have any idea?
No, I can't answer.
there's, well,
We have to get,
it's about 200,000.
And that goes back,
That goes back to,
who knows?
A long
Who knows?
at least 8 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think we'll collect, by doing this collection things, do you think we'll collect, if you had to project the shortfall of 15,557?
I would say it's a good chance, because once they get going to collections, it looks like it's coming through. The problem was we weren't getting it to collections, that was kind of the holdup, but, that has been corrected, so I think that we might have a good chance of, yes.
Several when we got back were quite small, but then we did have one come through that was the entirety of the bill. We got
know
every penny.
approximately what size that bill was.
The one we got back in full, I wanna say it was like 1,200, somewhere in that area, I'm guessing. It's been a couple weeks ago we got it back, so.
What's the collection agency take on that?
Is it
25?
25%?
Sure.
I think.
I believe.
But we get back, they just keep their fee and then send us the
Correct.
right?
So would these be 2 new hires, you gotta find 2 new staff?
No, I would not, I'd take 2 of my current staff.
Just want to.
I want to retain the staff that I have, especially if we're gonna move towards this ambulance district. Because
Right.
if we do move towards that, I'm gonna need more personnel at that point. This is gonna allow me to retain my staff that's already trained, and they're good staff, and, you know, give them a little more responsibility. If you know what EMS is like, most of us work multiple jobs in EMS to support family. That's what these guys are doing, so I don't wanna get rid of anybody, but I wanna keep them in.
So are we adding part-timers then, if these guys go to this?
They would just pick up the difference.
Okay.
One note that everybody should be aware of too, for these positions to be retirement eligible, we would have to change our policies, and that may change who else is eligible for retirement for the city too. So that's one of those things that we need to figure out yet, if that's something we can or should do or not.
Because they're part-time people.
At this point, we restrict retirement to full-time, regular employees only.
Would it make sense to,
But 48 hours, right?
For pay period.
No,
24.
Yeah.
24.
So it'd still be under the 32 hours.
does that also matter for vacation time as well?
It could, if we decide that
sense to just pay them more than not, and not.
Instead of changing the
And not offer
eligibility.
vacation or retirement.
It's a possibility.
You know what I mean, if instead of.
What's a 6% increase on that? Not much.
Well, you got about
Yeah.
4,100 and 28.45, so my West Central math's about $7,000.
That must be for all benefits.
That's for vacation and retirement.
Okay.
So are you looking for action on this tonight, guys, or are you just looking for, sounds to me like there's a few things we need to check, like, you know, before we probably make a decision on how it affects policies and things we have in place, right?
Yep, I think so. It is listed as an action item. If council wish to take action, they can. But I think more than anything, we want to get a sense from the council, is this a step in the right direction or not? You know, it's really, you know, in terms of being able to help out our ambulance crew of one, an opportunity to give him some time that he does not need to be here or within 15 minutes of here.
I guess to me, something needs to be done in my mind, because, you know, I don't know if the public really realizes, you know, you guys could easily do 450 calls this year, right?
Oh, we will. We did 450 last year.
And that's with no growth. So you start, I mean, it's becoming a big thing. And it's important.
And it's going to continue to grow
Right.
just because our population is continuing to grow.
Right.
Here in surroundings as well, you know, not just our community,
Right.
but also the
You've
rest
got a
of
good
the
service area.
How many square miles do you service?
Right now, 189,
189.
but we're getting called more and more into other territories to help them out too. Which, I mean, we built for it. We've been down to Vibrant Hospital twice this weekend, I think, in transfers to Sioux Falls, which actually is really nice because those are guaranteed pays. And with extra miles on it, extra mileage too, so that actually helps our bottom line a lot.
Well, most importantly, we're helping people.
Exactly.
I mean, the money's nice, but at the end of the day, it's about helping people.
Exactly.
Saving lives.
I think it's definitely something we
To
need to figure out.
Yeah.
Right. Get some of these questions answered. I don't see there would be no reason not to do it. It's just
Right.
And
all
this,
we have to do.
Alan, help me understand, I didn't follow, there's no head ad with this is
No, there's
promotions
not.
within?
Basically, just expansions of job duties that are currently there with extra hours.
So then when they are in the lead medic position, they'll get paid this across their entire
Correct.
work week, right?
Yep.
So our actual ad isn't what you've got, it's less, when you look at what our budget ad will be. Because we're already
budgeting.
working these folks
Yep.
40 hours a week, right?
No, they're not 40 hours a week. Most of these guys are taking one shift a week currently.
Okay,
Now
so we're
taking
adding
two.
two shifts.
Yep.
Probably taking 20 hours a week.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
think 24, we do 12.
12 hours,
24
yeah.
shifts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit in what you presented. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Do we need to make a motion to table for further review?
No, let's leave this as information for now. Perfect. We're going to hold up everything under item. Thank you.
All right, then on to economic development strategy.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We're going to have, kind of do this alphabetically. You have in front of you two of the proposals that we received to our RFP. One of them from Dakota Resources. We have Paula Jensen here on Zoom with us tonight to represent Dakota Resources. See if I got her on video. Oh, she's not on video, it looks like. Is she?
We got somebody on video.
There you are. My apologies, Paula. So Paula's with us from Dakota Resources, and Chris Maxwell from Maxwell Strategies is with us as well. So we'll have Paula kick it off, go alphabetically, and I think she's just got a few things to say, and then we'll probably have some question and answer for her.
Sure, that's great, thank you. Are you getting the echo, Nick?
Not here, I'm not. Let me try and,
Okay, I'm,
you're still getting it?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm hearing it. Well,
I don't need to hear myself, right?
Okay, try it out.
Okay, I think that sounds better.
Okay.
Still no feedback, it sounds like.
Well,
A little bit.
what we'll do here, Paula, is I'm gonna mute while you talk, and I think that might be part of the problem, that we've got the mic on in here, with two devices.
Okay, super. It's the curses and the blessings of technology that we've learned to use so well during the pandemic, right? Thanks for having us tonight. This was a fun proposal for me to put together. So a little bit about Dakota Resources. We are a 501c3 community development financial institution, which is a CDFI. We act as an intermediary loan fund, and we operate about a $25 million loan fund and borrow funds to economic development corps all over South Dakota and some outside of the state of South Dakota. That's how Dakota Resources was founded, and along the path, we realized and understood that our communities also needed some capacity building. So I act as a community coach. I'm also a fundraiser for Dakota Resources, and on the community coaching side of things, we help build the capacity of economic development corps and just leaders across the state of South Dakota in their rural communities. So that's a little bit about Dakota Resources. Our office is based in Renner, but we are 100% remote team as of February 1st, 2021. But we still maintain an office space there. A little bit about me. I live in Langford, South Dakota, which is about three hours north of where you're at, up in Marshall County. So I'm pleased to meet you all tonight, and you have your packets in front of you. So I'll just kind of walk through a little bit, and then we'll go into some questions. So Dakota Resources, when it comes to strategy work for economic development corps, takes a comprehensive approach. As you can see there on page 2, we have a team of people that will be working with your organization and the Lennox Economic Development Corps. So I will act as that lead coach, and I bring years of experience, 15 years or more of experience to economic development, and have served on the city council myself in my hometown of Langford. And then Mike Knudsen, who acts as our learning network orchestrator, is also part of the coaching team that will show up in your community. Ellie Knott is a community impact director. She is focused solely on the evaluation piece in phase 1 that I have laid out in your proposal. And then Joe Bartman is the president of Dakota Resources. He lives just up the road from you in Montrose, and brings a lot of experience with community building and systems thinking and group processes, and he may step in occasionally as well. I also shared with you some references, and you should have samples of each of those reports, harvest strategy reports that were from each of those communities. Minnehaha and Lincoln County Economic Development Association, Centerville Development Corp, and Beetle and Think Enterprises. So you should have 3 final documents that we did in those communities. And you'll notice that there's not a template. When we do strategy work, we try to really tailor it to the needs of each of the organizations and each of their communities. So each of those reports looks just a little bit different based on the needs and the requests from that organization to help them move forward. When it comes to our phased planning approach, the first phase is really about information collection. So we'd like to start work with your Economic Development Corp and have them do some organizational and board self-assessments, and then help them walk through the structure of their organization, what they need, where they're weak and where they're strong and can build off of. We'd also like to implement a community perception survey. This helps the community, first of all, be informed about the strategy work process that you're starting, and it helps them communicate back to the city and the Economic Development Corp kind of their opinions about things in your community. And then as we go into phase 2, this is where we involve the stakeholders into the process. So we'll bring whoever is decided to the table and have a conversation about community and economic development in your community, and then they will help us start to create kind of a vision for strategy for the Economic Development Corp. And then in phase 3, that's where we get down to work, and we understand you've identified 3 council members and 3 Lennox Area Development Corp members that will really dive deep into the strategy work. So we'll create a written strategic plan through that. We'll create an action plan for the work that's going to be carried out, and then also complete some implementation plans, and then kind of track that for the course of that first 12 months. And after that 12 months is up, we'd always love to come back for kind of a strategy reboot, where we will say, you know, the strategies that you laid out, were they the right ones? Or do we need to maybe change course? And then help get you back on track for the second year action plan. So that's kind of our approach to strategy work. And now I'll just open it up for questions.
Thanks, Paula. Are we off the? Paula, can you hear?
Yep, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Paula, when you met with the members of the LADC, what excited you most about what you learned in that meeting?
Bill, I would clarify that they have not presented to LADC. LADC has reviewed it, but Chris and Paula did not present their plans to LADC.
I see. I misunderstood when I read earlier. When given this opportunity to look at the city of Lennox, what excited you most about what you saw?
I've had the opportunity to get to know Nate pretty well over the course of the last year. He's been working with Mike Newton and I through the new economic development professional cohort that we're doing, and also through the learning network. And we know that the community of Lennox is kind of on the cusp of moving forward. There's a lot of things happening right now in your community, and it makes it a really great time for you to dig into this strategy and get the community and your stakeholders involved in that process.
Agreed. I see here in your presentation you did some work with Lakita Makita back in 2017. So you've got some experience here in our neck of the woods.
Yes.
I'm sure you must have taken a look at Lennox back then, as we're part of Lakita, I would imagine. And
yes. Yep. So I wasn't specifically part of that Dakota Resources one, so I can't answer specific work that was done during that session, but Joe Bartman and John Bronick were part of that team that worked with Nick Boshin.
I'm just curious if we've had this past experience with, at least peripherally with this group, if there's anyone that was a part of it that would have any anecdotal information to share about their experience.
That was 2017.
Yeah, January 2017 is the date on this.
Do you know who our board representative on the queue was at that time? I don't. It would have been before Cherise, before Leona. Bill, I can get back to you on that.
I'm guessing maybe Huber or Rob, maybe, I don't know for sure.
If we were to call Centerville, Paul, and ask
them about the experience, what do you think they would tell us?
So Jared and his board were in kind of the process of making some really big changes and shifts with their organization around the sale of their nursing home. Jared hadn't been in this position for too many years after Bill Hansen stepped away from that situation. And Jared will tell you that this was transformative for him and for his board to go through this strategic planning process. They stepped away as a group for 2 days and just really focused on creating some strategy based on the fact that they would have a lot of money to invest into their community and into their organization upon the sale of the nursing home there in Centerville. And it has made a difference. They're making some really wise choices with those funds. They've been able to expand a lot of their work in housing and on their main street. And he would say it focused back to that strategy.
Is part of your working with entities coming up with identifying, like helping them identify their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, like SWOT analysis? Do you do that with them?
We don't specifically do a SWOT analysis, but we do a lot around limiting beliefs, what's getting in your way, but we don't take you through a strict SWOT analysis. Other approaches we use, like our environmental scans, where we'll walk the board through a process of looking at their past, looking at their present, and then looking to the future, which then helps kind of step into that visioning work.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Paula? Okay, thanks Paula.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Chris, you're up.
Thank you, Paula. You did great. Ready for me?
Are we? We're ready, Chris. I'm gonna try and pull up your PowerPoint here and get that on the screen.
You know, no worries even. I mean, if I won't be seeing it, I'm not too worried about it, and I can just kind of talk through the approaches all day.
Okay.
So first of all, Chris Maxwell, Maxwell Strategies, thank you for having me this evening. Want to start off with, you won't go wrong with hiring Dakota Resources and Paul and their team. I just have so much respect for them as an organization and them as people. To be honest, have known them since Joe Bartman since back to college days, but the organization really since I moved back to South Dakota after having sold a consulting firm that I owned in a previous life, and moved back to be a part of the Governor's Office of Economic Development for a couple years as the Business and Community Development Director there, and just nothing but respect for Paula and Joe and Dakota Resources and the impact it had on the state. With that said, you know, when you go to do this kind of work, you know, I really believe it's about it is about your experiences, about your background, and some of the things you've been able to do and your team has been able to do. But it's also just about personalities and the feel, the sense that you have of is this team, are these individuals the right people to help you take those right next steps forward. And if it's Dakota Resources, we're going to cheer you on and only want you to be successful. And if it's Maxwell Strategies, we'd love to walk down that path and that journey with you. Paula shared a lot of similar things, a lot of from an approach perspective to to how Maxwell Strategies would approach things. I think similar to Dakota Resources, we'll probably take some pretty tried and true approaches to things with some twists on how we go about doing what we do. At the end of the day, there's a data gathering stage at the beginning of your process, making sure you're starting on the right foot and have the right people involved and organized around what you're doing. There's taking an initial step back and asking some of those right initial questions. And then you go into reaching out to the community, engaging stakeholders, engaging those that have been leaders in the community and maybe those who haven't, to try to get some different perspectives on what you're doing. And then you really get down to that work of planning and identifying those right next steps for your organization. One of the big things that we think differentiates Maxwell Strategies, and a lot of that comes from the kind of work that we do. Not only do we help organizations do strategic assessments and planning type of services, change management, project management type of services, but we also help run organizations and help run nonprofits and really truly like to stick around in those gray areas, those challenging areas, the time after the planning took place when you actually have to go out and do the work. I love the Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. You're going to run into that. We all run into that, no matter what project we're doing, no matter what work we're a part of. And then how do we react to it? How prepared are we to react to it? And I think the plan that you put in place and the process that you go through to getting there sets you up to be successful in those moments. And that's where we think Maxwell Strategy shines. We think we shine in the perspective and the approach that we have. We take a think big and take action on what matters most kind of approach, making sure that your eyes are set to the right horizon and that you're set to take action in those right places that matter most to you. And then ultimately, that you have the right mindset to be able to react to those things that are going to happen to you. And that's the right perspective, the right attitude. You're going to have a lot of negative things that you run into, and do you have the ability to remain positive and proactive in those situations? Do you have the patience in the places where you need patience and the persistence in the places where you need persistence, and are you balancing that in the right ways? And we really think we bring the kind of culture and relationships and conversations that can help make that a reality. We simplify the SWOT approach that you shared, and really take a keep doing, stop doing, start doing approach to that piece. Kind of simplifying that language, but hitting a lot of those same things and getting people thinking a little differently about how they approach the work that they're doing. And then, I think for Maxwell Strategies, again, I shared the work that we do, and that we're part management organization that runs nonprofits and runs associations, and we're part really traditional management consulting firm. By the work that we do and the reach that we have with our clients, we like to think that we can connect dots and help organizations, help communities like the city of Lennox see opportunities that they might not see otherwise. We're a huge believer in best practices. No reason to recreate the wheel, and learning from others and where others have either succeeded or failed. And so we think that's a huge step for you in this process, is doing some of that kind of work and making sure that we're really learning from those that have gone before us, or who are marching through some of those same challenges that are in front of us. Ultimately, the final piece for me is just our excitement and enthusiasm around economic development and around the future of the state of South Dakota, and investing in that, and organizations that are doing that important work. Maxwell Strategies has had a history of doing that kind of work in the state. As you can see from our references, we've been doing strategic planning work with smaller communities across across the state. I myself spent 6 years on the Fort Pierre Development Corporation as a board member after being at the Governor's Office of Economic Development. We're currently working with multiple regional and local organizations doing this kind of work for them across the state of South Dakota. And then I've recently been hired to help run the Economic Development Professionals Association, connecting with economic developers across the state. And so part of our team does that. Part of our team does some of the strategic planning work, and we really just believe the ability to connect all those dots and build those relationships just gives us a unique perspective. And again, you're not going to go wrong by hiring a group like Dakota Resources. They're wonderful. They do wonderful work, and extremely supportive of them. And we love the work that we do as well, and would love to help you guys out if it fits and works for you.
Great, any questions for Chris?
Thanks, Chris. When you put your or saw the RFP and you saw Lennox pop up, what came to mind for you first?
Well, the first thing that came to mind were the Rops brothers and our time playing basketball together was the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw it. But after that, what I thought about was, Lennox actually, in its own unique way, really reminds me of Fort Pierre and the work that we've been doing in Fort Pierre, and that Lennox has and is in a place where they have a unique independence and an ability to be independent and build their own future and set a big vision for who they want to be. Very similar to Fort Pierre, and a place that I call home and do a lot of work with. And there's a huge opportunity being connected to and right alongside of another economic engine and other economic engines that can help drive the work that you're doing there. And so when I saw it, and when I think about rural America, and I think about both the challenges and the opportunities that are out there, I just absolutely feel like Lennox has a tremendous opportunity in front of them, both to set their own path in their own direction, but also to grab onto that great momentum that's happening next to them. And what wouldn't so many communities do to have something like that? Parkston is my hometown. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. And so growing up in a smaller community than Lennox, but a Class A community, if you would, from a sports perspective, growing up. In fact, having two siblings that are back in Parkston, leading the economic development group there, and small business owners, and active with the commercial club. Hearing and seeing some of those challenges that they face, they've got a little bit of what you have being close enough to Mitchell to have some of that momentum kind of connect there as well. But I just think opportunity, and would love the chance to walk alongside you and help figure out how to grab onto that momentum that's out there.
Excellent, thank you, Chris.
Of the projects you do when you hit your closeout phase, do you have a percentage of those organizations you stay on with in a consulting role going forward?
Excuse me. It's a good question. It all depends on the organization. Obviously, it's probably a smaller percentage long term that we stay on with long term with them. Many of our clients continue to utilize us in different ways, just because of the variety of services that we offer. I'll share one example, which isn't in my references, but the Beersford Watchdog Education Foundation, through some funds and in partnership with a number of their other local entities, recently hired us to do a strategic plan for them and work with them on kind of setting a vision for how do they really bring their community together around what's possible and what's next for them. And my expectation was really that would be primarily just some strategic planning finish that effort, what was identified through the process is that they needed some additional resources to help them continue to take the right next best step forward. Their volunteer boards couldn't take things as far as they wanted to, and how they were organized needed a little help and a little bit additional structure. And so they, oh, excuse me. They also had a additional marketing need that Maxwell Strategies within our organization, creative arm, kind of our own marketing firm, if you will, and they needed some marketing and communication resources. And so they, in that case, ended up hiring us to continue on with them and help do a little bit of part-time leadership work, but also a whole bunch of work in that marketing and communication space and getting them organized around that, and then actually executing on their marketing and communication plans, social media work, their creative work that came with it. So that was one example of that. We have many, many other strategic plans where we come in, we sit alongside of the team, we help them with that analysis and that research and looking into what's possible for them. We get them a good plan, a good SMART plan with specific measurable actionable items, and then we step away and they run with it. We many times stay on for a lot of phone calls afterwards and connect 6 months out or 12 months out or set a plan for what that follow-up looks like, because they want us to be that partner with them. But we really leave that up to each situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay. Chris, Paul, I'm going to mute again. I expect there to be some discussion here, and if we have some questions, we may pop back with you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay.
So is this something that we're going to take action tonight?
Certainly can take action tonight. As I said in my memo, LEDC board has reviewed both proposals and did recommend Dakota Resources. They also have concerns about moving forward without somebody to carry out the actual objectives of a strategic plan, and whether that person should be on board before we engage in this process. So I don't know that. I don't know if there's any time soon that we can expect an answer. There's not officially a second community that's at least indicated that they're really willing to go forward with this idea of a shared position. But at this point, it's really only been Lennox that's indicated an interest. So, assuming that another community does sign on, it could be next week, it could be 8 months from now. We simply don't know. So carrying out that strategic plan, I think, is a concern of the LEDCs, and making sure that whoever is going to have to carry it out is a part of that. As volunteer board, they obviously have concerns about time commitment to do that. If the council wishes, they can certainly task that to me and add that to the pile. But I really don't. I'm not concerned about having that. I think the real work would come in when opportunities come that we're ready to act on that strategic plan. Following up the work every month, those kinds of things. That is not that time intensive for me.
So they made their recommendation off these two things, not visiting with the other one.
Correct.
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 I've got a personal friend that is listed as a reference in here for Maxwell, and I'd like to reach out and see what they can tell me. I agree with the LEDC's hesitation. Without having someone as the point person in this, it is simply an exercise that will go away. We do this in my line of work. We teach dealerships all the time how to do the right stuff. They get all rah-rah into you and they don't assign anyone to do anything with it, which just goes away. So to
see us take on this awesome opportunity and not have someone here to run with it would be very, very frustrating for all of us.
Sure.
So, I don't want to put it on your plate, I don't think that makes any sense at all. Is there any indication from Jesse about where that's going with Makita and that side? I know you mentioned that it could happen next week, but are we hot and cold with anyone? Are we the only
I
community?
think we're born with another community.
Okay.
I don't know if there are specific questions or holdups that community might have at this point, but as far as I know, the discussions have gone very well. So I could check in with Jesse and see where they're at. And last week was the last I spoke with him on Friday afternoon, and he indicated that things were progressing, but no indication of when somebody may be ready to jump on the boat.
Would I be right to believe that we don't have a concrete plan going forward from our economic development side?
For
a strategic plan?
We do not.
Right.
We do not. And I think that's one of those holdups. Having concrete goals and objectives and methods with which to carry out achieving those goals and objectives. That is part of what came out of that joint work session that we held with the LABC back in October, November. Part of that was, a lot of that discussion was around the lack of those goals and objectives, and how do we tackle X, Y, and Z? If we even identify X, Y, and Z can be a hurdle. In the same, I see where you're coming from though too, in terms of strategic plans and where they usually end up. It's well known, in the field that I come from, that you do a strategic plan every 2 or 3 years, and then it gets put on the shelf, and then 2 or 3 years later you review it and say, oh, we didn't do that, we should probably do that. Let's do the strategic plan.
Right.
And so you go through the planning process again. And it's not that process isn't useful, especially the visioning process is very useful, just to get clear in everyone's mind, and the stakeholders' mind, what are we seeking to achieve here? What is our mission? I don't know that I've ever seen a mission statement. I know I've not seen goals or concrete objectives, and I think that pulls back not just the LADC or the city, but really the community as a whole. We don't know what we want in terms of economic development, and that's hampering what we can do.
Totally agree. So that goes to the question of leadership. Not necessarily, I think we have extremely competent and capable people that are volunteering their time for our LADC right now.
Absolutely.
So that's not a knock on them.
Yep.
We just don't have a paid person to really kind of run the show there.
Yeah.
So we're leaving it up to their energy and their time to try and steer our ship. And that would be excessively challenging, I would guess, given that they're a group that meets regularly, but they have full-time jobs.
They do. And other volunteer commitments that they have to attend to.
Right.
We're talking about leaders in the community. They hire other volunteer and leadership positions in the community. And, I think steering the ship is one thing. I think they're all very capable of steering that ship as a board and making decisions and providing that guidance should we have this economic development strategy together. Rowing the boat is entirely different. That's where the rubber meets the road, and or the wood meets the water, I guess. That's where the actual work of achieving these things happens. And if you don't have somebody identified to do those things, you're relying on the volunteer efforts of people that are already very busy and tax their time and energy.
So right now, we're kind of hoping that something comes together from an outside organization to help us along with this position. What actions can be taken from within this group to kind of control our own fate there?
LAPC has committed financial support to this already. $30,000 that they committed to the shared position through looking at GITA. The city has been asked to do $15,000 for that same position here, and that's expected to pay for half of this position, both salary, benefits, and so on and so forth, all the overhead. I think having a firm commitment from the city to move this forward will help. A firm financial commitment of $15,000 will help that. So that being said, we still need another.
Right, we're still not taking matters into our own hands. We're still waiting for another organization to have a domino drop to start the whole process. I guess I'm saying, are we at a crossroads right now? Are we deciding if we need to lead a group with someone that's employed by the city of Lennox? Or do we need to put our chips in with Lakita Makita and another community so we have that leader?
Yeah. I think either is feasible, either is doable and can work. Centerville, which is what, half our size, I suppose, does have an economic development director. Jerry's been there for, I want to say 3 or 4 years now. And I think having that one person, that point person in your community, representing your community, there's a lot of strength in that.
Absolutely.
Especially if you get the right person, and Jared is absolutely the right person for Centerville. You're finding somebody that's absolutely committed to that would be great.
Challenge.
Would be great.
Yeah, it'd be great.
To find the right person in that role, absolutely. I'd have to research how they operationally make that work. Because I know he reports to both the Centerville Development Corp Board and I think the City Council. And the city provides space and salary. I'm not sure how that all works, but
Sure.
Having some sort of joint agreement in a situation like that could be useful.
If the council is in the same line of thinking I am, I would like for you to pursue that information. If I'm on an island here, then the conversation's over. But what do you guys think?
I'm in agreement.
I think we should look at it. I mean, I think, yeah, this is, you hear the term rudder of the ship, right? I mean, that's kind of almost, and it's not anybody, one person's fault.
Right.
It's time. And if we're wasting resources for it in my mind right now, because we're not very efficient at it. It's not anybody's fault. So we've got to figure out a way to be efficient. Is that working with another town? I don't know the answer to that. But I would agree with Bill. I think we need to explore going it on our own here. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not putting words in your mouth,
No,
right?
that's what I'm saying. I think we have two paths, and that is one of them. The other is waiting for another community to
And we
cooperate.
don't know when that's gonna be.
Correct.
If,
Or if, yeah,
Or if.
yeah.
The other one has the support of Lakita Makita. This guy would have to work his way into that, or gal, this individual could easily work their way into that, depending on the person that we find.
I think the resources for getting a person up to speed on all this are there. Like Paul said, I've been a part of Dakota Resources, I think since day one in Lennox. The work that Chris is doing with Economic Development Professionals of South Dakota is going to be great. Really look forward to the work that they're putting together. So I think the resources to get a person, not just trained, but to give them that network of people throughout the state that we all rely on. I mean, I think if you could all see the conversations that happen online and through email every day with some of these groups with, hey, how did you guys do this? How did you do, did you like your last housing study? Should you have done it a different way? Those kinds of things. I mean, we have all these questions that go across the state and we all rely on each other for input and guidance and expertise. And it really is a great opportunity for whoever's in that position in whatever town. So I'm not quite sure what to recommend in terms of action tonight. If the council is ready to make a decision on
I think I'd like
which
to
organization
do some more homework too. My sister actually works in Brookings Economic Development whatever it is, foundation there.
Okay.
And they use Dakota Resources. I'd like to pick her brain a little bit and see how they are too.
Okay.
Phil's got a connection to Maxwell.
Yeah, I really like both these organizations.
Yeah, I think they're both
There's no bad answer
great
here.
presentation.
We've just gotta be ready for it if we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
I remember popping off of meetings, I had one with Paul and Mike and another call with Chris, and I remember leaving both of them thinking I'd be thrilled to work with, with either. Just in terms of the expertise and, their commitment to small towns and economic development, I'd put them up against any other organization in the country.
It's exciting to hear the energy and to think what we could do and how we can make this thing work, but getting all jacked up and not having anybody run with it's gonna be really tough.
Sure.
How, maybe you know, maybe you don't, I'll just ask. What steps has Jesse taken with this other community? Has he met with them privately on
I think
several
he's
occasions?
met with their development corporation. I don't know that he's met with the city.
Okay,
I think he's maybe had a couple of phone calls with the city, but I don't know if there's been a formal presentation.
okay. And he's met with our development corporation as well?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
We're just gonna use this as informational then.
Yeah. Chris, Paul, I apologize. I just realized I muted you for all that conversation. I'm sorry. Thankfully, you'll be able to catch it on YouTube later on tonight. So what the council decided is to table act. They haven't decided yet. The discussion has been around whether it's right to take action tonight without having a person in place to carry this out. So we don't have an economic development staff person at LABC or at the city at this point, and they've asked that I take some steps to research whether it makes sense to take that next step of having an economic development staff person here, whether through Makita or through ourselves. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to follow up with all of you tomorrow and continue that discussion, and we'll go from there. Okay, thanks guys, appreciate it. I think I just waved even though the camera's on. It's a thought that counts, right?
We'll see you on YouTube.
You're a Zoom door.
Oh goodness. Didn't help that I muted the conversation, but goodness sakes.
All right.
It's when you forget to mute on Zoom meetings is when the real problems happen.
Don't forget to shut the camera.
Oh Lord.
Or you're a cat.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Okay, so we are on to item D, Lincoln County 4-H donation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a new donation that's coming to us, new donation request. In the past, we've given money to, or we've given a donation to 4-H. We provided 2 pool passes, I believe, last year for their silent auction to raise funds. We're building, they requested funding for scholarships and sponsorships, as well as their programs. I recommend a motion to approve contribution of $1,000 for Lincoln County 4-H.
Oh, second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion there? We roll call Doherty.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
Bowers.
Aye.
All right. Motion to approve a $1,000 donation to 4-H has been approved. Next is Lennox High School after prom donation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a similar request. Most years, the after prom committee requests a donation from the city. In the past, we've given $100. I searched feverishly for last year's donation, could not find it because, well, COVID, there was no after prom party. So I recommend another $100 donation this year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
How long have we been giving them $100 for?
3 years.
So I mean, is $100 enough?
That's, I think they just request that now, don't they?
Yeah. I don't believe they would turn down.
I just mean, we gave $1,000 to the 4-H that is the entire county, but then we only give our people.
The amount is at the council's discretion. Yes.
Do we have more to give them? I'm not the money person.
Yeah, I would think that if you wanted to give, I wouldn't go over 1,000, but, you know, if you wanted to do.
So like 10,000?
I think she was talking to the other.
Well, this way.
Maybe can I make a motion to recommend we give them $200 instead of $100?
Well, we got Wolf and Welch already made a motion.
So,
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay.
I'll second Chad's motion,
The Bradley's motion.
Chad Riley.
So a motion is second for $200. Any discussion there? Okay, we'll do roll call. Bowers?
Aye.
Welch?
Aye.
Riley?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Doherty?
Abstained.
All right, so 4
To 0.
to 0. We're good. $200, Lennox High School has been approved. Next, ordinance 620, amending chapter 8.0101, utility service application required.
thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up from the last meeting. We had discussion on some issues we had noted with carrying over closed accounts on our utility services. So our current ordinance, as it stands, allows that refund back to property owners, homeowners, after 12 months of consistent payments. This would do away with that and hold on to that deposit until after all charges have been paid and the account is closed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first reading of ordinance 620 has been approved. Seeing no items for personnel or executive session unless somebody has any. Looking for motion to adjourn.
So, second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.
So we need that.
My wife runs it.
I was gonna say,
So, I would love to have said 500. The amount of money that they go through on that.